Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We weren't sure when they were going to let us in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen. All righty. So can everyone see the presentation, Virtual Admitted Students Week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll do introductions here in a second. We actually have a slide for that, but we're gonna wait another minute just so that people who are logging in, running a little bit late, can go ahead and get started. So we'll wait about another minute. Where's everyone calling in from or visiting from this morning?
I'm from Virginia.
Virginia, all right.
Well, that's where I live right now anyways.
Yeah, nice.
Georgia.
Georgia.
Arlington, Texas.
Georgia's in the news a lot lately. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We have about an hour this morning. We're going to strongly encourage you to use the chat. I guess it's a chat feature is what they refer to. You're welcome to ask questions using that, and we will monitor that. There's 4 of us here representing the university, so we could all assist as we monitor. I'll get started off by welcoming you. Let's see here. So just to be sure you are at the right place at the right time, because you know the joke right now, because of the COVID-19, sometimes we don't know what day of the week it is, right? But it is Monday, April 27th, 2020. And this presentation titled University Resources for Diverse Students. Specifically, we're going to be talking about scholarships, DACA and undocumented resources, and the overall question of paying for college. It's probably where we're going to spend the majority of the time. And you'll see that these conversations, these topics all align with each other. And we'll start here. So wanted to welcome everyone officially and let you know this is an exciting time. You're about to start what we would refer to as one of the most exciting periods in your life. Your undergraduate experience is full of fun, excitement, life lessons, and academic successes. But first, the conversation is always how. How do we pay for this? How do we navigate from wherever I'm living to this university experience? And my goodness, the resources are plentiful, as are the questions. For those of you who are transfer students, it's a little bit easier because you kind of have that experience, you know what to anticipate for the most part. If you are currently a soon-to-be graduating high school student, it could be daunting. It can even in fact feel overwhelming. You're used to being in an environment for the most part where, you know, you have all your teacher support, and if you're in athletics or if you're in some kind of organized group, band or theater, you have your support system. And starting at the university can be tough. And I think my colleagues throughout the week are going to be talking about various subjects. So we don't have to talk about that. But it's worth noting that it can be and feel overwhelming to transition. So are your presenters this morning? I'm one of them. My name is Dr. Fuentes. I'm originally from Corpus Christi, Texas. So situated from where we're at, we're, you know, an hour east of Dallas, about 45, 50 minutes east of Dallas. So my hometown from here is a good 7 or 8 hours driving without traffic, right? It's a pretty good distance away. And, I've been with the university since 2008. Initially came here as a graduate student working on my doctorate. I'm a first generation student, so that's important for all of our experiences. So all 4 of your presenters this morning are first generation students. And so you'll get that perspective. If it fits, you know, for in your current situation, definitely feel free to ask those questions and maybe even start off as your question as a first generation student, you know, maybe that's your personal perspective. And if not, still it's important to realize those resources that are available. And the last thing I share about myself is that I'm an Army veteran. My colleague, Vanessa Armendariz, originally from Dallas, she's on the line this morning as well. She just started here as a staff member in January. We were talking about that this morning. So only a couple months ago. So the reason we're doing this virtually is because, of course, the COVID-19 as higher ed transitions to providing those resources, we'd like to think our university is leading that effort as well. That's why we're doing it. And so I say that because, again, Vanessa started in just January. And so look at what we've had to experience because of this pandemic. Vanessa is also a first generation student. So her perspective will be from that view, if you will, and she's a DACA advocate. So that means that she'll be talking about that topic this morning. Estrella Cruz, originally from Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico. She has been with A&M Commerce as a student and student worker since 2017. I believe she came here in 2016 as a student. She is also a first generation student. She's a transfer student, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I'm a transfer student.
There she is. There's Estrella right there. She's a public health major and she's a student leader on our campus. And our last presenter this morning is Jocelyn Pita, originally from Wilmer, Texas. And she just started as a staff member in 2020. So only a couple months ago, just like Vanessa starting as a staff member, Jocelyn started as a student worker. She's a first generation student and she is a history major, and she also will come from the perspective of being a transfer student. All right, so today's presenters are staff and student leaders who are sharing our professional and personal perspectives. So on the major factors to starting your undergraduate career or transferring smoothly. So that's important to know, right? And then my last thing I'll share with you about communicating is use that chat option to ask your questions, or you may also unmute yourself and ask a question. We don't have a whole lot of people in here, definitely I think under 20. So if you want to stop us and ask a question, we are open to that. So we're going to be talking about 3 different subjects. I'll take the first one. I'll be talking about scholarships. I'll touch on that a little bit. I anticipate that the majority of your questions may revolve around that subject. So I'll touch on that. Estrella is also going to be talking a little bit about scholarships in the piece and how it helps pay for college. And of course, Estrella and Jocelyn and Vanessa will be talking about DACA and how it affects that specific population.
And if I can ask a question, how many of you
Yes.
are listening with your parents or
It's a great
need
question.
translation or something?
Great question. So if you're listening with your parents, let us know. Also, if you need this translated to Spanish, we can do that as well. Is that a resource? Does anyone need that this morning? Feel free to ask those questions using the chat, or you may unmute yourself. So if that's okay, I'll continue. English, but again, if you need that Spanish option, do not hesitate to let us know. All righty. So scholarships. When we think about the undergraduate experience, we know, of course, undergraduate means that you're starting your 4-year degree, right? So whatever you're majoring in, it's a 4-year degree. And sometimes it takes people 4.5, 5 years. But we're trying to get you to do that in 4 years. And so there's a strategy for that. You know, it means taking a couple more hours each semester as you need, but also mindful of how that applies, and don't take too many early on, because that first semester of your undergraduate career is very telling. It's important for you to realize who you are as an undergraduate student and what you can and cannot take on in that experience, if you will. One of the most common questions we get from families and from students is, how do I pay for this, right? When they start talking about what it costs to go to the university, for many families, if it's the first time they've had this conversation, it could feel like somewhat shocking. You know, it's like, how much? And we reassure everyone that those resources, that reference to how much college costs is us stating, if you got no scholarships, no aid, no grants, is how much it would cost. So scholarships are a big piece. Now, do you have to pay scholarships back? No, you do not. Just like a grant, scholarships are free money, right? You might automatically qualify for some grants based on your financial aid package, but scholarships are definitely ones that you have to apply for. So that's the difference. That's the major difference, is that, let's say you're visiting a specific soda company, right? Whether it's Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi, they all have scholarships, just as an example. I know big in the Dallas area is Fossil Watch, you know, American Airlines, Budweiser, just different companies providing various scholarships. Those are referred to as external scholarships. And so that means, so here's the university, everything inside the university is internal, right? Everything outside the university is external. So those external scholarships are available throughout the year. They tend to start in the fall. So we're starting here in the fall. That means that students who are getting their college paid for probably started to apply last September, October timeframe to allow for that application process to go through. So to hit on that, if it's your junior, if you're listening and it's your junior year, or a brother and sister are listening in, that's ideal. That's when you really want to apply for those scholarships or look into them and do your research. Your senior year, you have to do it. I know that we talk to a lot of athletes, for example, and they say, well, I was in the middle of the football season. I couldn't think of anything but football at the time. Like, well, that's unfortunate, because students who were thinking about scholarships started to apply in the fall, and were probably notified in the spring. February, March is where we're at now. So if you applied last fall, you are probably being advised. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean, you know, so I didn't do it my junior year, here I am my senior year, and I'm going to graduate next month or the next couple of weeks. I've not applied for any scholarships. And if that's your experience, actually, it's pretty common. That was my experience when I started school. I was not very familiar with how scholarships worked. I was not aware of the process. I didn't know there was a process, and didn't know how competitive they were. A thing I often hear from parents also on the subject of scholarships is, my son or daughter is, let's say, Latino or African American or Asian. Is there automatic scholarships for them? Well, no, it's not automatic. There are scholarships actually, which is kind of cool, that target African American, Latino, women, international students. So they say this scholarship is available for this population. But you still have to apply, number one, right? And you still have to, because they're competitive, you have to be able to earn that. So if there are 2 scholarships available and 100 people apply for them, that means that 98 are not going to get it, right? So you have to be that top 2, top 3, top 10, not necessarily in your graduating class, in how you share that experience. So one of the things I wanted to tell you is, if you haven't already, a bit of advice from me is have your bio, like a one-page who you are bio that tells your story. Because oftentimes a scholarship will say, why would this scholarship benefit you, for example? And if every time you're having to retype that versus I know my story, and me copy and paste it, it's mine, it makes it a little bit easier for you to apply for more scholarships and to have a consistent message, and more importantly, to edit that message. Because if you submit it, and here's an example, if you misspell the university's name, some of my colleagues, some university colleagues will not allow it to pass through the committee. So if you say, if you just kind of mix some words around, instead of saying Texas A&M University of Commerce, if you say the University of Texas at Commerce, well, that's a whole other system, right? There's the UT system and the A&M system. We're part of the A&M system. I would argue a better system. So be mindful of that. Go to the university website, see how they say that, how they refer to their university. In our case, you're admitted to come to our university, right? So we're excited about that. And we want to provide you with those scholarship opportunities. And that's what this morning is. This morning is to let you know, here you are, your senior year, you still have that opportunity to apply for scholarships. Remember, go to your banks, to the websites for Coca-Cola and Fossil Watch and all these companies that provide those scholarships, and see if they're still available. Once you're admitted, and you all are, now you have access to our internal university portal. So when you go to your MyLeo account and start reviewing that, you'll have the opportunity for you to apply to various scholarships. And some of those are still available. So my last point here is summer before fall. It's very limited, but there are still some available, right? So don't give up. Don't give up on that opportunity. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. All right, so the secret to everything is to apply, 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 right? What does that mean? That means, I gave this little scenario for you. So the current minimum wage is $7.25, $7.50, right? It's definitely under $8. So how many hours would you have to work to earn, let's say, $1,000? Well, keep in mind that Uncle Sam, right, that the federal government takes about 20%, maybe more, of my check. I lose 30-something% that I never get to see. So if you've not had a job yet, you'll quickly learn that the federal government takes a good percentage of that money. So in order to truly earn $1,000, you have to earn about $1,200. So $1,200 divided by that minimum wage is about 172 hours, right? So it would take you 172 hours, approximately. Could be off a little bit. Maybe you make, I understand, there's some jobs that pay $9 and $10 an hour. So maybe you're working 150 to 170 hours to earn $1,000. And what's my point? My point is that if you spend 2 or 3 hours applying for scholarships, you may earn one of those $1,000 scholarships, right? And there are plenty out there. Now, some people say, well, it's only a $500 scholarship. Apply for it. Many people don't apply for scholarships, or the big thing is they see that there's a essay, like, oh my goodness, you have to answer 2 essays. I'm out. I'm not going to do that. And what you do is what would have normally been 100 applicants now turns to 30 or 35 applicants. So apply for those scholarships because it's less competitive, because people really don't want to do some of that work. And so the last thing I'm going to share with you this morning is a specific scholarship that I'm privileged to manage, and that is the Student Diversity and Inclusion Scholarship. If you will, on the chat box, put your email, or easier for me is email me directly at fred.fuentes@tamuc.edu, and we'll share the email again in a little bit. These scholarships actually we haven't even opened them yet. So they're competitive, right? And the reason we say they're competitive, because you have to compete against other students, but more importantly, if you're out of state, 2 people said Virginia and Georgia. If you're out of state and you get one of these competitive scholarships, guess what that means? It means in-state tuition. So it's not just a $2,000 scholarship per year. It actually reduces your cost of attendance by thousands of dollars. So if you're in the Dallas area, you apply, you know you're potentially gonna earn that scholarship at $2,000 a year. If I'm in another state, I'm definitely applying to this scholarship because it will reduce my rate, because it's a competitive more than $1,000 in the state of Texas to allow you in-state tuition. Okay, that's my presentation. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Vanessa, who's going to talk about DACA undocumented students. Vanessa, take over.
Good morning. How are you guys? Hope everybody's doing fine and staying safe. So first, well, my presentation is about DACA undocumented students, because I know a lot of students who don't have the documentation and they think they can't go to a university or four-year college. Or a lot of them have DACA and they're wondering what's going to happen here soon. And we know that and we understand it. So there's a lot of resources that we have at the university to help you navigate through your 4 years. I was a non-traditional student, so I actually transferred to university, went to community college first. And it was very different for me, my experience. And so not only do we have resources, but we understand that it's harder for you when you're not concentrated 100% in school and you're thinking about other things. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so you may be wondering, what are the resources for you? So one of the resources is that we have scholarships for everyone. So las becas son para todos. It's not just for 1 or 2 students. It's not just for students who are born here. It's for everybody. So it's important for you to know that you can get scholarships even if you're not from here. Another thing is we have counseling services. So if you're away from home, I know somebody's from New York, really far away. If you're away from home and you just want to talk to somebody, we have that available. You can go in and talk to somebody. We have some people that speak Spanish if you're more comfortable. So they understand where you're coming from. They understand when you talk about your family and having to help them out while being in school. So we have that resource for you. Another one of the resources is we have DACA workshops. So we are working really hard on making sure that you have all the information that you need every time you have to apply for DACA. We also have an attorney that just came last week. We did an online interview with him, so you can go back and watch that on TAMUC Facebook. But he came and basically answered a lot of questions that our students had regarding DACA. So we will have that available, hopefully, and I going forward every semester. It's just with all this COVID-19, it's been kind of crazy. Another thing we have is mentors. So mentors for students. So whether you're Mujeres de Acción, which is basically an organization for women, Hispanic or Latina women, or you have LAMP, which is for guys. But we have mentors here. We also have TASPA, which is for students who don't have documentation and for students who have DACA. So you don't get federal aid, but you can get state aid. But you have to apply, like Dr. Fred said. You have to go in and apply and do the application because it's not a long application and you need some paperwork, but it's going to be worth it at the end. And we have a lot more resources. We have a gym where you can work out. I mean, it's an amazing campus. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so I understand that it's hard to ask questions when you belong to DACA undocumented group. So if you have any questions, if you feel like you need to ask me something personally, my email is right down there. It's vanessa.armendariz@tamuc.edu. Please feel free to email me whenever. Just write your name and where you're emailing me from and your question, and I will get to you as soon as I possibly can.
So does you have any questions specific to DACA? If you're comfortable asking publicly, and if not, you may, as Vanessa said, email her directly, and we can connect you with those resources.
So, si tienen alguna pregunta, ya sea sus parents, sus padres, o ustedes, please ask me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if nobody has a question, then I'll leave it to Estrella. She is going to talk about the experience at Texas A&M Commerce.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. So we're going to make this, this next piece is really, did somebody circle that? That's pretty cool. I don't know how that happened. So Estrella and Jocelyn are gonna present on the next two slides, and then we'll have our contact information and take questions as well.
Alrighty. As the friend mentioned, my name is Estrella, and a little bit more about, I mean, she already touched the subject on scholarships and all that information, but just to give you a little more information about my personal story, I did come from a community college and I transferred here in 2017. And I was also worried because I am DACA. Personally, I am, as he introduced us, I am from Matamoros, Tamaulipas. I was brought here when I was like a couple months old. So just figuring everything out really, because I had to research everything on my own. I was able to find all these resources, and as they were saying, you need to apply for scholarships, and that's what I did and applied for TASFA, and TASFA is specifically for undocumented and people who have DACA, since DACA students, specifically like myself, do not qualify for FAFSA. But definitely apply as early as possible. And I went ahead and did my research like I mentioned, and I managed to apply for TASFA and scholarships, and that's what I've been doing with paying for my school and for housing. And I am a student worker as well, so that has helped me, and you can apply for jobs on campus. So keep that in mind, that being a DACA student is not a barrier to be a student worker on campus. Jocelyn, do you?
Oh, sorry, as like in the introductory too, I'm also a transfer student. I do have citizenship, so I did apply for FAFSA, thankfully, and then I did receive FAFSA aid, and then as well as scholarships. And I'm a student worker as well as Estrella is. I also transferred from a community college. I graduated from that college and then transferred here. And so then with my experience, it's really on just making sure that you meet the right people and that you're networking with a lot of people, so that way you have the best opportunities to receive as much aid as you can, because it's really important that you join and certain communities, or just understanding how the system works too. So getting that scholarship portal and making sure you apply at least maybe 1 or 2 every day, and so that way you're increasing your opportunities to get aid. So yeah, that's my piece.
And I also want to mention that Estrella is out of this world.
I didn't know I could change their background, so I went ahead and did it. Because my kitchen is in the back.
So as they, you know, they talk, and they can expand a little bit more on their student experience, but there are, you know, 3 different levels, if you will. So on the financial aid piece. So if you're a U.S. citizen, you get to submit your taxes, and once that's done, you get to file a FAFSA, right? And so that's the majority of the population. If you are a Texas resident, you may qualify to submit also your taxes and file a TASFA, similar type aid to help offset those that do not receive federal aid. And then increasingly, we see this population that are just simply not eligible. They are not U.S. citizens. They're not, they've not established residency in the state of Texas. And so unfortunately, they're not eligible. If that's your situation, yeah, you're very limited in what those resources are. So the best thing to do is, sorry, I didn't have my video on. The best thing to do on that is to apply for scholarships. That's the biggest piece. And I think overall, that's our message this morning, is that you have to apply for scholarships to help offset the cost of your undergraduate education. Another important point is that your freshman year typically tends to be the most costly. And the reason why is you've not established a job yet. Your housing options maybe are limited and your food plan options are limited. But once you are, let's say for their experiences, they are transfer students. And so they're able to have a little bit more flexibility on that and maybe go right into working. They've made those connections and they can get a job. But if it's your freshman year, what we want to do is see that you're taking care of your academics first. And so if you're a student athlete, it's even tougher to get a job because the training and the preparation and the actual season, it could be tough, but it's not impossible. Okay, and I think that's another mission of this morning for us is that if you look at our individual stories, you may think, and maybe at one point in our lives as well, we thought this is impossible. There's no way that I could go to school and pay for it myself. And in fact, this morning's lesson is that all four of us happen to be individuals who pay for our own education. None of our parents are or were independently wealthy to put us in a position where they were able to provide us with money to pay for our education. So you guys mind expanding on that in the student experience? Any other bit of advice for students who are coming in and seeking jobs, seeking scholarships? What are some of those resources that are available in your personal perspective?
One thing I just want to go ahead and mention, Khalil did ask a question. He did say he wanted more information about the work study program. So usually as soon as you apply for financial aid, they usually will ask you if you're interested in a work study position. So yeah, I went ahead and did that, put yes, and usually they'll give you, once they give you the amount of financial aid you're going to receive, they should tell you if you qualify or not. And after that, it's your job to like look for a job. Yeah, there's plenty of jobs on the portal, on the Leo Mail. There's one specifically for just jobs. I think it's called MainSync, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, just go ahead and apply. I would recommend email them personally, like talking to them, let them know that you're interested. But yeah, with Dr. Fred, yeah, I applied for a scholarship, and then I was looking for jobs, and then because I was planning on working at Walmart, and then I found the job with Dr. Fred, and then I was hired. And same with Jocelyn as well. I know she was looking for jobs around campus too. But yeah, you're gonna have to put a little effort and yeah, go out and look for some jobs because there's plenty of options.
There are. Thank you, Estrella. And if I could add that one of the huge benefits of, so she said she was going to work, off campus at a location and probably competitive pay and hours and stuff. But the difference with the work study program is that for those of you interested, you're not going to work more than 19 hours. All right. So, and the reason behind that is so that you can concentrate on being a student. And also, here's a huge benefit is, like in our office, you might work an hour or two a day shift, but you're also doing a lot of schoolwork. And so because it is a work study program, individuals such as Estrella and Jocelyn, while they're here, they're doing their homework. They have access to our resources here in our office. And then occasionally, let's say a family comes in and visits and they assist with translating or visiting with the family, but it's on occasion. So if you manage this correctly, you should be able to do your homework at the office, right? At your normal job, if you get one of those jobs. They're competitive though, you have to know. There are some jobs that perhaps you don't have the same flexibility. It's the same thing that if I were to tell you, if I'm teaching history, the lesson I'm preparing than if I'm teaching a psychology class, they're different. Same, but different. Same thing with work study. Some of them have a little bit more flexibility. In our office, we encourage the academics. And so it would serve no purpose for you to work in our office and to end up failing and be kicked out of school. So we strongly encourage that you do your work in the office. And our students, I would like to brag about them. They're pretty amazing because they're high GPAs, they're very competitive, very involved. And so if that's something you're interested in, as Estrella said, mark that on your financial aid on your as one of those resources that you would like to receive. And it's a huge resource to help offset the cost. And what I like to think is that it gives you the sense of independence. It removes that potential barrier or burden that's better on your parents, right? So I know a lot of people who say, I don't want my mom and dad to worry about paying for my education. And they end up with a job, and that's what helps them as a young independent person. But more importantly, their mom and dad are thoroughly impressed that they're working and paying for their own education. Anybody else want to add anything?
Yes, I work for the president's office, and we're the same way over there. Basically, student workers come in, they take turns. So we'll usually have 2 or 3 student workers who one comes in, they do about 19 hours each. And well, that's the most you can do. And then they come in, they answer the phone whenever no one else can. So you're basically just there to cover lunch for everybody. And then the rest of the time you do your homework, or you answer a couple calls, and then you can keep doing your homework. So it's nothing too crazy over there either. So we want students to do their homework while they're working. So if you see it in a way in which you're getting paid to do your homework, it's pretty cool.
I guess one thing I would add too, when I was looking for a job on campus, I really made sure I went to the events. So during the semester, the school holds events, kind of like, not like job fairs, but they should have these events where at the student center, a bunch of organizations come, and then like the libraries there and stuff like that. And even school districts from within the area. I remember I applied for this tutoring job, or like, not tutoring, but like, just like to help students with their schoolwork if I was qualified for the job, for Greenville. And like they go to see if like any students are interested. We're working with the school system too. So I encourage all new students to go to those events, because sometimes like I had to look for them and like follow the school's page on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, and make sure you look out for those flyers where there's like job fairs, and then also campus organization groups going to the student center and representing themselves, so you can get an idea of what you're interested in. And then also Handshake is where you can apply online, and so for the job. So just make sure you're looking out for stuff like that, because for me, when I was looking for a job, that was something that I really made sure that I attended to.
All right, thank you. Another point on this slide, the last one, by the way, thank you for that question on student work. It's really important. When I was a student, I didn't know about it. And so I didn't sign up. I missed out on an opportunity to make a little money, right? But more importantly, the connections you make while working in those offices. For instance, Estrella and Jocelyn work in the office where our vice president is located. And so it's a tremendous resource to be here. And then the giving piece. We get to visit with families that have great questions, and we get to watch young people go through that opportunity to change their future, to change their perspective on life and their potential earning. And so it's really a beautiful experience to be a part of. One of the other things I wanted to touch on is federal student loans. And so we know, so in an ideal situation, you apply, you submit your taxes, and you qualify for financial aid. Let's say they offer you certain thousands of dollars, right? Grants to offset your cost of education because of your financial aid, right? But you might still owe some money. Let's say you got a scholarship that was $1,000. That reduced that cost by $1,000. Or maybe because this is your first year, you didn't know and you did not apply for any, or you applied for 2 or 3 and you didn't get them. That's just the reality. It's a very competitive game out there, right? And so so you don't have a whole lot of money, but you have some debt. You owe, I don't know, maybe $1,000, $2,000. If you're lucky, if you're one of the lucky ones, you qualify for federal student loans. Now, when I talk to families, I can almost guarantee you almost always they say this: no, we're not going to do loans. We're not doing any kind of loan. They're just not going to go to school. And I'm going to be honest with you, that it hurts. It hurts to hear that, because I know I don't have the money. When I was 20, 25 years old, let's say, I didn't have the money to buy a car. Does anyone have money to buy a car? So you have to go and finance it, right? You had to finance this car because the car was going to get me to my job. And the job was where I was going to earn my money. But if I didn't have a car, that means I was limited to I don't know, 1 mile, or if I live in a city, if I live out in the country somewhere, it's mandatory you have to have a car. But let's say I live in a large city, all right? And I could walk. I'm still limited to a walking distance. But if I had a car, then there's an opportunity to get a job that pays a couple of dollars more. It's the same concept. You have to invest in yourself. And so I tell families that all the time. It's not ideal. We don't want you to take loans, federal student loans. Those are, protected, and the interest rate is low, and it's through the federal government. And I say if you're the lucky one, because if you are a student who's here with limited resources, and maybe you don't have U.S. citizenship and all these limitations, you don't qualify even for the loan. So I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm one of the lucky ones. So I did take out loan. The secret is you have to be educated in what to do and how to take those out. So it's a last resource for you. So you want to get your grants, your scholarship, your federal aid, you get your scholarships, right? Then you see, it's like, I need $1,000 more. I can go without it. Or I need $3,000 more. And if I don't get this money, I'm not going to school. Then I really think you need to be talking about federal student loans, because choosing not to go to school, the difference in a high school education and a college education, you guys know what that amount is, right? It's over $1 million in a lifetime. So in the course of your life, from starting to work at 18, 19 years old to when you retire, it's at least $1 million of unearned money that you just didn't get because you didn't have that degree. So I argue that all the time. And it's tough because there are parents who say, no, my son or daughter is not going to get this loan. And I gently ask, do you have the money then to offset this cost? And sometimes they do, like we have the money. But when they don't have the money to tell a student, to tell their son or daughter that they're not going to college because they don't have that, that's tough. It's very tough. But that's our reality. We get it. And that's why I'm proud to say that our university is one of the most affordable in the state of Texas. We are very mindful of the cost of education to ensure that more students have that resource. And so just keep that in mind. Same thing with walking a mile every day or $1,000 car. I know that car is probably not going to be the nicest, right? But it's going to get me to and from. It's, for me, it's worth my investment if I can essentially have it paid for within a year, and then year two it pays for itself and on. Same thing with our education. Keep that in mind. Okay, and so Estrella and Jocelyn are going to share some tips for you, and then we'll wrap it up here soon.
Alrighty, so as we mentioned before, definitely start early. I went ahead and did so much research because, once again, I had to do everything on my own. My parents weren't really able to help out because they weren't really knowledgeable about just the whole college experience and applying and everything. So yeah, I definitely started early. I started like talking to advisors. I started talking to like the resources on campus, I guess specifically the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. So yeah, definitely started early. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I know this whole thing seems confusing sometimes because it's a lot. It's a lot you have to do. I mean, from transcript, from turning your application, your financial aid, your housing, your meal plan. I mean, everything. It's a lot, and I get it. It's overwhelming, but we're here to help. So don't forget that. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask us. And another thing is you should definitely join organizations on campus. For me personally, I met a lot of my friends there, and I'm part of the student organization of Latinos. and I was able to not only like build a friendship within the organization, but they also have workshops where like they help me become a better person and just learn more about myself. And then we do community service and then networking for sure. It's definitely important to get to meet other people because you never know, you might meet your best friend while doing all that. I met Vanessa there too. So yeah. Jocelyn, would you like to like add on?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just really like with asking for help, really don't be afraid of it, because even though it feels like if you feel like you're like really like pestering or like you continuously are emailing them, they're there for that. Like they're supposed to be helping you. Any staff member, any advisor is there for you. So don't feel like don't feel bad about asking for help, because I know for me that was a big thing, was sending out like at least 20 emails a day asking like, hey, has my financial aid gone through, or hey, why hasn't it showed up that I have completed this task, or why does it show up this? I know for a lot of people it's kind of like, what's the word, it's like kind of scary in a way to be asking so many questions to one person and thinking that they're gonna go off on you, but I promise they're not. They're there to help you. Like, trust me, all of us want every single one of y'all to be able to attend this amazing college, university, and be able to enjoy all its benefits and all the things it has to offer. And of course, go out to events. I know for me, being a transfer student and living off campus, I didn't have dorm experience, so I didn't have people like constantly around me. So I had to make sure that in order for me to succeed at this college, at this university, I had to make sure that I involved myself. So I went to the SOL meetings, I went to campus events, I met a lot of people, and through even my classes, I was able to meet colleagues and friends who made me feel very welcomed here, and especially my teachers, who also were really friendly and helpful to making sure that I succeeded here. So just really network and getting out there to show how you are an asset to the university and how you can also help others out. Because of course, one day you're going to be in our seats helping other people come to this university. So.
And also keep in mind that I don't know if it applies to anybody, but I am a mom and actually became a mom halfway through. So that was extremely difficult. But the university actually has a daycare, and you can put an application in and you may be able to get daycare for free. So I don't know if it applies for anybody, or if you know somebody that wants to go join the university but doesn't have the daycare or the financial aid. I received financial aid, I received scholarships, and then I received the daycare. It's like a daycare scholarship. So they pay for your daycare, they pay for your basically for the FAFSA, and then you have scholarships. So I haven't had to pay much out of pocket at all.
Yeah, these are very helpful. Estrella talked about getting a monthly planner and thinking ahead. Of course, the joke is anyone who bought a monthly planner for 2020 wasted their money.
Oh my gosh, yes, they have them on sale.
I haven't had a single thing written on there. My sister gave it to me. She's like, why haven't you used it? I'm like, dude, we're not doing it.
Yeah. So aside from the spring 2020, that planner really not helpful, but not, of course that's a joke, but not completely. How would you know about this? It's important that when things get back to normal, if they ever get whatever normal is, right? To know that the university keeps going, right? And so there's a start date, there's midterms, there's finals, there's an end date. This is going to continue. So that planner, whether it's on your phone or a physical planner, very helpful.
Hey, Dr. Fred.
Successful. Yes.
I'm sorry, there's a couple questions coming in. One of them is from Kiara. Will this PowerPoint be available online?
That is a great question. We're not it's my understanding that it's my understanding that it will be available. And if not, yes, it will be, because they are recording it. So yes,
right.
It will be available.
There's also another question from JB. Where can I obtain additional info on the LAMP program mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so the Latino American Mentorship Program, it's a nationally recognized program. The point of contact, if you want, email me and I will forward your email to the individual who is responsible, who's the coordinator for that. So let's see here. Where are our emails? Kidding. Okay, there's my email. So, and I accidentally forgot to add Joceline's, but again, you may email myself, Vanessa, or Estrella, and we will forward that email to Joceline if you have questions for her. So, you know, again, today, are there more questions?
Yes.
And one was, can we contact y'all later on if we have any questions? And of course, you just answered that. So
Yeah, so of course, you know what Jocelyn said, it's true. You know, I probably receive 200 or 300 emails a day, so I don't respond as quickly as maybe somebody else would, because I have so many emails. So just keep that in mind. You know, Vanessa, Estrella, and Jocelyn are great about responding and almost like a triage. If they can't answer it, then they send it to me, right? But for the most part, you can email them and they have those questions, those answers available to your questions. For myself, it's sometimes a little bit harder to respond. And if I miss a day or two, if I'm out sick, then that means the next day I come to the office and I have 500 or 600 emails. And so that could feel, even for me, like, oh my goodness, where do I begin? So yes, but I want you, I will get to your questions, right? We will answer those questions as soon as we get them, as soon as we can. But I think to Joceline's point, if you have a contact at the university who's been helpful, keep using that contact. You're not wasting anyone's time. You're not, we're here, we're working. The university, I mean, if you don't ask us questions, what am I going to do all day long, right? And so we need you to ask us questions and do not feel like you're bothering anyone. I really wish someone would have given me that advice when I was a student, an undergraduate student. I didn't ask questions, and I think guys are like that sometimes. But I didn't ask questions. I didn't know what questions to ask, and you know, just like everyone else said, my mom and dad could not help. They didn't know this information. It's not that they didn't want to help; they just didn't know where do you go get your books. Do you go to the public library, you know, to go, you know, do work, or do you go to the school? The school has their own library, you know. Yeah, we have a 24-hour a library that's open 24 hours. We have, you know, various places to eat at the university, to work out. Oh my goodness, if I could brag for a second on our athletics, like our athletic program, top notch, nationally recognized, and in fact, national champions. So when the sports season starts, that's one of the things I hope is back to normal. We have some phenomenal basketball, football, track teams, volleyball, women's softball, just phenomenal. So that's an exciting thing. The student programs on our organizations, they mentioned SOL, Student Organization of Latinos. SOL is a great organization to be a part of. There's so many, and there's even people who come here and say, I see there's a need for this group, this specific group. For instance, a couple of years ago, the Caribbean students got together and created Khemsa, Caribbean Student Association. Oh my goodness, what a phenomenal organization, and a blend of all the cultures in Central and Latin America, right? And so you might come to the university and say, I want to start a group to do this. Do it. Use your leadership to create those groups. Use your interest to join groups.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no,
No, go
you're
for it.
Okay. So I was trying to, or I don't know how to word this. Okay. So I reached out to financial aid and admissions, and they're saying something about TEOG. I'm not really sure what that is, and I don't have 60 credit hours, and so that might affect my financial aid.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't really know what to do. And so I was also talking to my academic advisor at Collin, and they don't have ANP1 open because they're all full. And so I need to check on the day, like on payday, to see if anybody like forgot to pay or something, so I could take that spot. And so I would have 56 instead of 60
Oh.
hours.
Yeah, that's such a unique question. I honestly, my advice, if I'm you, I am kindly and gently bothering that advisor. I'm like, is there anything, whether it opens up or not? Because here's the thing, that's gonna put you in a very tough situation to transfer. Okay, so ask them for a Zoom. Ask if you can talk to them, and because my advice to you is humanize this experience, right? If you were to email me and I respond to you, I'm responding to black and white letters on a computer program, right? An email. Phone, if we talk over the phone, now I'm responding to a human voice, okay? If we Zoom, which is better to be face-to-face, but we don't have that option right now. So if you Zoom and meet with them, now it's human. You're looking at the nonverbals. I'm able to look at you and say, I need your assistance with this. So anything you can do to help me would be greatly appreciated. I need this class. You know, I'm going to do well in class. That's not an issue. And so just reach out to them, again, kindly and gently, always professional. Advice I give people all the time, always professional, mindful that you don't burn any bridges. They're a professional, so they want to help you. At the end of the day, all of us that are in these jobs love our jobs because we love helping students. And so I know there are limitations. I mean, if you can only have 25 people in a class, I get it. So you can't, they're not going to break the rules, is what I'm trying to tell you. But they'll keep you at the top of their mind. And so when that person drops or doesn't make, boom, you're in. And even start getting ready for the class. Prepare as if you're going to get into that class. That's what I would do. So that when they say, okay, you missed 2 days of class, we're going to let you in. But you didn't miss 2 days of class. Maybe you have your book already. Maybe you've been talking to the professor. Be aggressive in that manner.
Sir, I do have a suggestion. So you're saying that the class is full and there's no room anymore?
Yes.
Okay, so that did happen to me once, and I needed that class. So they did recommend that I emailed the professor that was teaching that class. So that's sometimes, of course, it just depends on the class. But that particular class, I asked them, yeah, and they're kindly enough, they let me in. So yeah, it's just you have to ask and let them know, because sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. It just depends. But I managed to get in. And I know that's a very important class. So if you absolutely need it, I'm sure they'll understand. But
yeah, and explain your situation. You know, the email should be not too long, but comprehensive enough to where you say, "This, I'm transferring. I'm going to be graduating. All this stuff. This is an exciting time in my life. I need that one class."
yeah,
And, you know what I mean? And see what they say. And don't ever get discouraged, because they may say, "We simply cannot." Okay, we're gonna keep pushing forward, right? But stay positive, stay strategic, and stay professional, of course, always.
One other question was, when can freshmen expect to receive their financial aid package?
So those packages they're working on them now. They should go out soon. I know I met with the financial aid leadership in the last week. They're working on summer to get those out, because there are students that are trying to take classes in the summer. They have to get that, and those should be out in, I'm guessing, the next couple weeks, if not sooner. Do not hesitate to email me directly, or Vanessa, or say, we can all forward that email to financial aid, right? So if you have a concern, if you've been waiting, if you're anxious, and it'll help relieve that anxiousness and anxiety, email us, and what we'll do is we'll send it directly to our colleagues at financial aid and just say, guys, do you mind looking into this file for, you know, said student? They're just trying to check the status, and then they're going to answer it, and it gives you that peace of mind, like, oh, I'll know by May 5th or May 15th, something like that, right? So that's my style always. I like to know what I'm looking forward to, what I anticipate. And if you don't ask, there's no, you have to just keep waiting. But if you do ask, there's that opportunity for someone to answer.
And please check your emails, like always check
Yes.
your emails. It's so important for you to
Oh
check
my
your
God,
emails,
that's
because
the
if you
best
don't
advice you can
reply,
give.
if you don't reply within 14 days, it goes away. Like you don't get it anymore. So please check your email every day, every other day.
Daily.
Yes, every day.
Because remember, now that you're admitted, all of our correspondence is coming through your MyLeo. So utilize, that's the best advice of the day. All right, guys, it's 12 o'clock. Thank you so much. You have our emails. If you have a question specifically for Jocelyn, ask one of us. We'll forward it to her. Again, our background is first generation. We're transfer students. We're parents. We're moms. We're dads. We're professionals. More importantly, we're here to help everyone on this call and everyone else you're related to provide these resources. Congratulations on getting into what I believe is the best university in the world. All right, go Lions.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now let me figure out how to turn this thing off. You guys have a great day.